Now, our next submitter is Mr. Hillhorst.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Kia ora. This is your last day, and I appreciate you've been at this now for some weeks, and so you must be looking forward to the end of that. Maybe this is a good time to look at this, like I would say, left field suggestion that we've got. You're going, my God, where did this come from? We're dealing with traffic and all of these sorts of things, understandably. But what is this Flight Plan 2050 group on about? So I plan to speak for a couple of minutes, and then I'm inviting questions because you will have read, and I think, a reasonably comprehensive reports from us. So our purpose is to advocate for the Central Lakes future airport infrastructure to ensure it best promotes the whole region's future wellbeing. So we're no longer focused on, hey, let's use Frankton Flats for the obvious thing. I think I sent you a diagram. A lot of your things would be solved if you could kind of go, hey, let's build in there and put 30,000 people in the middle of what is the spokes of urban development that are going around it. Wouldn't that make a sensible 15-minute city? So we think that will naturally fall out of a national conversation. And so we've moved to let's having a national conversation, and that's our kaupapa. So our submission asks you to retain the future potential of Ladies Mile. Could at some stage in the future be adapted to serve as a runway during civil emergencies such as the AF8? Now we're very, very conscious of the issues that you're facing. Frankton, like we have population growth, 8% last year, and we're talking about residential population. Put aside the visitor growth, because maybe the destination management plan, maybe climate change and flights and all that sort of stuff, that's a different question. But people move to this district, and we've been here, myself, 32 years. In year 2000 under Mayor Clive Geddes, we did a whole bunch of workshops. We put hard urban boundaries at the Shotover River. Can you imagine that? Nobody would be living in the Eastern Corridor, and Jack's Point had not yet started. So, we've seen a lot of growth. We had no supermarkets. This place is ballistic. Now, we come from the position of recognising that is like one of the inevitabilities that you face. And for all of the things that I recognise, we love the open space and stuff like this, the development you're talking about really only deals to about 10 years of future growth, because we're expecting an additional 30,000 by 2050, and you're catering for about 10. Okay, so we recognise that's an issue. We think that the natural and normal development going forward would be to say we need urban density somewhere, and the middle of Frankton Flats is the obvious place to put it. You've got very clear transport and public transport links. You stop this disconnected centres thing and start saying there's an urban hub of 30, 40,000 people living here, and everybody is now in a very straight line, sort of 5-minute, 20-minute cycle from it. So that's kind of really obvious planning if we have the courage to look to a blue sky, look forward. Now, how likely is it? Well, studies for alternative places for the airport, the council had 3 years of looking at this in 87 and 88, that's some time ago. Again in 95, before the jets were introduced, they're going, well, nobody will tolerate jets, so maybe we need to relocate the airport, and some serious work were done. We're talking about 100-page studies, the sort of things that you guys are looking at, maybe not as intense as this. So there's been a past appetite for it. We believe there will be a future appetite for it. We believe that the Central Otago Airport proposal at least gives us a platform for a conversation that is easier than saying from scratch. Nobody's going to want to move the airport because they can't see where it'll go. Well, as we see that potentially it could go, and as we move this discussion into the national arena, we're going to find that it starts a little bit like Ports of Auckland. It's going to start going, something has to be done. And we need, So the question is, are we going to retain that as a potential? We're not asking you to build a runway or do anything like that. In fact, our proposal, we believe, we're talking about an existing restricted building area. We're not asking you to take away rights that people already have. No, that's not the conversation. And all we're doing is saying, please leave it there. It's a little uncertain what the plan is, because the different maps that we have here, one has like a break in it happening here, and the other one has it going right through, and these are published in the same document, the 49 report or whatever it was. So it's a little unclear, but fundamentally you're taking away 50 metres, and that's a crucial 50 metres. And you're also, if you endorse the master plan, going, let's make it an avenue of trees. Now, this would sabotage the opportunity of putting, in the future, a runway, emergency runway, like when it's necessary, Hercules planes flying, and there are 45 planes already in Australasia that could be using that, because we recognise an AF8 would be right across the South Island, but this would be a priority zone. So that's the question. Do you want that as a future option? The future urban development. Maybe it's not going to be in 5 years or 10 years. Potentially it could be. If Christchurch got the go-ahead, and within a 5-year time frame we're looking at, for them to have got the consent, a year or so for them to decide to go for consents, another 3 years through this sort of process, and then they've got, let's say, a 3-year build. It's conceivable within a 7, 8, 9, 10-year time frame that they could put planes on the ground at Central Otago, or they could hold that option off for further. So it's actually a near-term conversation we should be having, but potentially it's 80 years from now, you know, when you've done Ladies Mile, and then, well, you've lost a whole bunch of Jack's Point because they've put it into QE2. Where else in the basin are you going to go? Once we've played that game for a long time, and I imagine the transport network will be like tearing itself in shreds, we will have that conversation. Should we protect that ability? That's what we're asking, and we're asking you to consider seriously. And we believe it could be done at no cost to the urban density of roughly 10,000 people you could put into that zone. So that's our kind of position in summary. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. And your submission and your presentation then are very clear. So thank you for being very simple. Although you provided us with lots of material, you've been very clear and straightforward as to what you're asking for. So thank you very much. It makes our job a lot easier rather than trying to sift through and find what the issues are. Any questions from the panel? Judith?
I do have a couple of questions. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what the question is of us. And it's around the potential future use of State Highway 6 as an emergency runway. Yeah. So are you envisaging that when it will be needed, or that there will be any change to the road to allow for that? Or are you seeing is it in its current form would provide that potential emergency
Clearly
runway?
not in its current form, or in the form that you would result in, because you're going to put in lampposts and all those sorts of things that are a natural part of a road. But the point is, once a decision is made, and that's not part of this conversation, you're going to put in street lights, and you're going to put whatever you're going to put in as it is. But at a future time when it's decided, all of those things would be designed so that they could adapt reasonably quickly. And we've had engineers go through a process. So, for example, lampposts can go down reasonably quickly, and they could be designed to go down by simple hand operation rather than any mechanical operations. Currently, we've got roundabouts. They could be sitting on concrete slabs with skid planes built as pizzas that a simple car with a tow bar could pull a single slice out to the side. So the point is, the road could be engineered and designed in a way that would easily, within an 8-hour period, be adaptable so that planes could, and sufficiently so that every 3 or 5 years you might run an exercise where those planes come in. As we have the C7 from Australia come and land in Queenstown Airport, that's a jet-powered Hercules. So they do like training every so many years. They'll fly over here and fly into the various airports that they need to do. So we could imagine that. This is maybe the only opportunity we've got of that. It's perfectly located because you can actually build a network of road. You can use the road system of the basin and get around without that section, because you can run up, shot over country in that emergency circumstance. You could imagine that once everything's pulled aside, you can have planes land and then cars can use it again. You've got potentially school grounds and hospital right adjacent, so you've got body of the supply logistics and all those sorts of things that sit and are required. The helicopter landing spaces are all possible there.
That's actually helped my understanding a lot, because I was scratching my head about the streetlights and power poles at the moment. So thank you for your answer. Appreciate that.
Singapore has, I think, 3 of their highways. The one that you would take from the middle of Singapore to the airport, you'll notice that there's a long section of there that the trees in the middle of the road are sitting in huge, great pots. And it's because they've got it designed that they just go and push those pots to the side and their military aircraft can land there. So they have, I think, 3 parts of their highway system on that little island, which they can convert pretty easily.
Thank you.
Thank you. Polani.
No questions, thanks very much.
Gillian?
No questions, thank you.
Ian?
No questions, but I'm very familiar with the Singapore examples you
Yeah.
raised. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you just for being so, to my reading and things, very clear, very straightforward.